Hi everyone and a warm welcome to Workshop 11. This is my very first one. It's a shame that I can't get to see you all, but I'm looking forward to getting to know you all as time goes on. For those that don't know me, I'm the new resident engagement manager who took over from Solar this year. I'll be shortly in the best office with the team on a week by week basis. Keep an eye out for more information on the next newsletter and when that will be. And yeah, feel free to pop in for a chat and I look forward to it. And without further ado, I will hand over to Ali for a discussion on phasing.
Cool, thanks Crystal. I hope everyone can hear me okay. I noticed a couple of comments in the chat that people had sound quality, but I think it's been okay for the rest of people by the sounds of it. So at the last workshops, the previous workshops, a lot of you have been asking about phasing and when can we share more information on phasing. So we've been working on it hard in the background and we didn't want to give you any sort of information that didn't have a degree of certainty, or at least a degree of intention. So in the pack we sent you, we included this slide and some of the slides I'm going to talk through today, which is our indicative phasing strategy at this moment in time. Of course, this is our best intention for how the phasing will work, but it is still subject to discussion with Islington Planning Authority, and it's predicated on us achieving a certain number of homes in each of the different phases you can see here, because if we get those homes, then that means we can move people from blocks into them. If we don't get as many homes as we think, then we can't move as many people, and this would need to be revisited. So to recap on what we said last year in August, it starts with phase 1A and the residents of Blackmore House being temporarily rehomed. Newland already undertaken conversations with affected residents there. It's important we get all of that land for phase 1A to enable us to build enough new blocks for the residents of phase 1B to move into, so we can then move on to phase 1B. So phase 1A accommodates homes for the tenants in Messeter, Moulton, Jocelyn and Blackmore. Once they move in, we can then build phase 1B, which you can see there in blue. This will accommodate a number of homes of different tenures. So we're intending that residents of tenants of Adrian, Jocelyn, Maver House and Ewan House move in, as well as leaseholders from Jocelyn House, Adrian House, Maver House, Ewan House, and leaseholders from Blackmore, Jocelyn, Messeter and Moulton move in as well. And so then that creates space for us to start on 1C and 2A together, and so on and so forth. You can see how the phasing strategy then moves into the southwest corner of the site before moving to the canal, and then finally the southeast corner of the site in phase 3B there. Katie, would you move to the next slide?
Yep.
Thank you. In terms of how the first two phases, phase 1A and phase 1B, break down in terms of the arrangement of tenures across the two phases. As I mentioned, it was always our intention to try and move as many of you as possible in the first phase, and certainly deliver as many affordable homes as possible before we start delivering private. So all of phase 1A is replacement homes for existing Newland tenants. Then in phase 1B, we're trying to create enough homes to provide tenants for Adrian, Maver, Ewan to move in, but also because we are starting to provide such a large number of social housing across these phases, we need to inject at this point a certain number of homes for sale, which is what we're doing in the block there on top of what is existing Messeter House. There's also a block shaded in green, which identifies there'll be a mixture of homes in there, some homes for sale and some homes for leaseholders that elect to return. Katie, could you move to the next slide, please? Thanks. So this essentially is that information presented in a hopefully quite user-friendly way. On the left there, you can see the intended rehousing program for tenants, and on the right, the intended rehousing program for leaseholders. And as I said, it is subject to further discussion, but this is where we are at the moment. So if you're in Blackmore, Jocelyn, Messeter House, Moulton House, we're intending for you to move into phase 1A in 2025 when it's complete. If you're a tenant in Adrian House, Thurston House, Maver House or Ewan House, we're intending that you move into one of the blocks in phase 1B in 2027. and all other blocks are to be confirmed, but it's unlikely you'll be moving before 2030. And for resident leaseholders, we're looking to move any resident leaseholders who take up their shared equity offer in Blackmore House, Josson House, Mester House, Malvern House, Oyen House, Thurston House, Maver House, and Newman House into phase 1B in 2027. And all other blocks are to be confirmed, but unlikely before 2030. So I'll stop there because I don't want to go over my time when I open it up for questions. Thank you.
Okay, hi, I'm Katie from Paula Thomas Edwards Architects, and I'm going to give you an overview of phase 1B. So the plan on the screen shows the location of what we call phase 1B, which is highlighted with the red line boundary here, and it's the second part of the estate to be transformed. It's located where Jocelyn, Mester and Malton House are currently located. Over the following slides, we will talk through how the buildings will be accessed and the types of homes that will be provided. The Workshop 11 material posted to you has additional information you may be interested in. And for ease, we've added Workshop 11 page numbers in green boxes to all slides for reference, so you can cross-reference that against the pack of information you've got. So firstly, we're going to have a look at the ground floor plan. There are 5 blocks within phase 1B, and this plan shows the location of communal entrances highlighted in green. Communal front doors have been highlighted with a red arrow on the plan and are generally located close to the street. Residents will have a fob that gives access to only the block they live in. Main entrances, cycle and bin stores will be fobbed, plus the courtyard gardens. And the fob access points are highlighted on this plan with a yellow dot across. So now focusing on the bins and bikes, each block will have a secure storage for bikes and bins, which are only accessible to residents of that block. Where possible, access to bin stores will be from the ground floor lobby, meaning they are more secure and you don't need to go outside to use them. There will be bins for general waste, mixed recycling and food waste too. Every home is allocated a cycle space or spaces depending on the number of people within a household. There are also several accessible cycle spaces provided across phase 1B. In terms of outside space, all homes will have access to a secure courtyard garden, which is highlighted in green here and also here. And the landscape architects will talk more about that soon. For each block, there will be direct access to the courtyard gardens, and they will be shared with other blocks that surround this space, regardless of if the homes are for sale or rent. These spaces can also be accessed via a fob gate, providing direct access on your journey home. The courtyard gardens are a place to relax, a place for children to play, a place to chat with neighbours, or a place to invite guests over to enjoy the space. Phase 1B is in a great location with its proximity to Barnard Park, and a large proportion of the proposed homes will overlook the lush, newly landscaped Pulteney Park, which is in the centre of this plan here. There are a range of homes located at ground level across all 5 blocks within phase 1B, each with their own private outside space. Location of homes at ground floor have been carefully considered with a view to maximising homes overlooking green spaces, whilst providing natural surveillance and activating routes too. Highlighted in pink, which is just here, is the location of the proposed temporary estate management office serving phase 1 and 2 during demolition and the construction stages. So now we'll move on to a typical floor plan across phase 1B. There are a range of different home types provided, which is highlighted in the different colours here. Every building provides 2 lifts and are designed to be level access across all surfaces, ensuring homes are both wheelchair and pushchair accessible at every level. All new homes will be designed to modern standards and sized to reflect the number of occupants within the home. Regardless of size, there are some minimum dimensions and areas that all bedrooms and family bathrooms need to provide. Across the next 5 slides, there is an overview of a sample of homes across phase 1B. Please refer to the Workshop 11 pack of information you've received for more detailed information on each of the home types. So we're just going to give an overview and then we can answer some questions specifically. So firstly, we're going to have a look at the one bed, and the location of the one bed home presented is highlighted in red here in the home location plan, and this is consistent across all of the home types we're going to look at today. So the one bedroom flat must be a minimum of 50 meters squared or 538 square foot. We must provide at least 1.5 meters squared of internal storage and 5 meters squared of private outside space, usually in the form of a balcony. One bedroom homes generally have an open plan living room with a large windows that open out onto the balcony space itself. There are a range of 2-bed flats within phase 1B, and the plan shows one of these homes in more detail. You will notice the increase in size from a 1-bed home, with the overall area, size of storage and balcony space also increased to reflect the number of people. And this is reflected, so the bottom image is the living space, and there's a larger area for this provided. Some 2-bed homes will be open plan, while some may have the opportunity to have a separate kitchen. Where possible, we want homes to be dual aspect, which means they have windows on 2 different sides, and this helps with cross ventilation and daylight. There's a variety of 3 beds across phase 1B. The first one we're going to look at is a 3-bed home with, for 4 people, and that provides a double bedroom with 2 single rooms as well. Homes with 3 or more bedrooms will generally have a separate kitchen or combined kitchen dining space, and in addition to a bathroom, this size of home also provides a separate toilet, which is just here. The next 3-bed we are going to look at is a 3-bed 5-person home, which provides a double bedroom, a twin bedroom and a single bedroom too. As before, the amount of storage and outside space increases with the number of bedrooms. The second bedroom is sized to fit either a double bed or 2 singles for flexibility. We've shown 2 singles here, but you can provide a double bed in there as well. And then the last home that we are going to look at is the 5-bed 7-person mews. So similar to those in phase 1A, these mews houses provide homes for larger families, and as noted, there are 5 bedrooms. And they have their own front door to the street and a private outside terrace overlooking the courtyard, accessed via the living space. Additionally, there are 2 upper level balconies, one looking onto the pedestrian only mew street and the other overlooking the courtyard to the rear. And that wraps up an overview of phase 1B.
Thanks, Katie. If you can move on. Perfect. And good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully the next one of these will be in person. My name is Nick McEwen, and I'm working at Farrow Huxley, and we are the landscape architects on this project. So the map in the top left corner of this slide shows the amount of existing open space across New Barnsbury. And you'll notice that the colours on that map correlate with the bar chart below. So this illustrates the proportion of open space which is accessible, the proportion which is private, what's currently shared, and so on. And there is much more detail on this on page 13 of the printed pack that you've been sent. But just to summarise, of the existing amounts of available open space on New Barnsbury, most of this is currently inaccessible landscape buffer. So this usually comes in the form of those quite large areas of fenced off amenity grassland. And a very large proportion of it is given over to private gardens. And we know that there is existing open space which has 24-hour access, but you've told us that it offers few opportunities really for rest, for meeting people, for play or for exercise. So we can compare this with the map in the top right corner, and this shows the amount of open space that is proposed by the new master plan. Now, we know that the borough is already deficient in open space, and we have worked really hard to retain as much as possible, but it is a balance. And so in order to provide you with new and better homes, the estate will lose around 5% of its current open space. However, as you can see from the bar chart breakdown below, the available open space that will be on offer in the transformed estate will be far more evenly distributed between all residents. It will be much more democratic. It will be easier to access, and crucially, it will work much harder. So it will offer you a far greater range of activities and things to do. Thanks, Katie. Move on to the next slide. So in terms of what the open space looks like and what it offers, we know that you care about nature, and you've certainly asked us in previous consultations to make sure that the transformed estate provides for wildlife as well as for people. The pie charts on this slide, and these again are on page 13 of the printed materials, these show how we'll diversify the types of soft landscape across the estate. So we want to create a richer and a more varied planting palette. So integrating things like rain gardens, flowering lawns, mixed native hedgerows and meadow. All this will help to support wildlife and also bring greater seasonal interest as well. So in the next section, we will look in more detail at who has access to the open spaces that we're proposing, but we would just like to pick up on this issue now, but specifically in relation to the canal. So at the moment, as you can see in the bottom diagrams, the canal offers, or the canal landscape rather, offers generous private gardens and shared open space, which is enjoyed by the residents of Aldrick and Amery. So we're exploring two options for the canal landscape, and we're really interested to hear your view. So we will have a poll after I've gone through these options with you to see what you think. So the first option, that's the central diagram. So this is proposing that the pedestrian connection, which does actually already exist, is reinstated and opened up. So that would enable access from the towpath and that top path, which runs parallel, through the canal landscape and onto Carnegie Street. So this route then would pass through an animated communal square or a courtyard, and this would be open to everybody. So in this option, we see an increase in the amount of 24-hour accessible open space for everybody. It opens up the estate to connect with the canal, but it does reduce access to semi-private or resident-only space for these homes. And then in option 2, the pedestrian link is closed off. And so that central courtyard is shared then by residents in the surrounding homes. So this option sees, an increase in the amount of resident-only space at ground level, but it does reduce the amount of 24-hour accessible space on the estate, and it does close that physical connection, that path through to the canal. And it's just worth noting before we go to the poll that in both options, we will improve the pedestrian experience along Carnegie Street. We'll also enrich that buffer, that planted vegetated buffer to the canal area. And we will sensitively light that top path that runs parallel to the towpath to improve safety as well.
Yeah, happy to run through this. So we're going to have a look at the building appearance for the family of buildings that sit across the master plan. Again, there's a lot more content in the Workshop 11 pack of information that's been sent out. So we're going to give you an overview, but yeah, definitely have a look at that because there is a lot more detail to delve into. So the first building type of building we're going to look at is the mansion blocks. So these mansion blocks will front the existing streets. So that's Caledonia Road, Copenhagen Street, Charlotte Terrace and Carnegie Street. And they've been designed to reflect the forms of old Barnsbury with pitch roofs and dormer windows. And you can see in this key plan that they wrap around the perimeter of the master plan. And there is a nod to the building form and the roof of old Barnsbury, which is opposite. So these are what we call strip elevations. So they're to give you an idea of the material palette and the type of like how the buildings are going to look, but also the type of details and materials that you could expect across this building typology. So all buildings will be predominantly made of brick, which is a high quality, durable and low maintenance material. These mansion blocks also have a zinc roof and dormer windows adding character. So this is the dormer roof here. This is the zinc roof here, and the dormer windows are the ones popping out, and there's a small one located here as well. So they have also recessed corner balconies, which we've included to provide added privacy to these homes, especially the ones on more prominent routes like Charlotte Terrace and also Caledonia Road as well. Next, we're going to have a look at the lanes. So these run north to south of the master plan. They're highlighted in the orange colour here. They are 2-storey family homes at the lower levels. So they're the duplexes that we were talking about earlier with one of the residents, and they have their own front doors leading off the Lane Street. So flats stack neatly above these homes, and they are accessed by lifts and stair, and then along an external walkway. So the access would be from the communal stairwell would be a walkway similar to the gallery balcony access many Barnsbury residents are familiar with in their existing blocks. And then at the top there is a setback top floor, which provides more homes with roof terraces, as well as concealing equipment to heat the homes. So again, we're having a look at the strip elevation of what a lane typology would look like. So here we're proposing to use a pale brick to tie into the surrounding streets of terraced houses. There is special detailing added to add interest at the lower levels. So that is here we've got some sawtooth brick detail, and also emphasising these duplex homes at the ground floor level. So the part that we've decided this is the best place to add the detail, spend the money there. So these are the parts of the building that everybody will experience. And the balconies of these blocks are partially recessed, meaning a good balance of sunlight and privacy can be provided. And this bottom image here is an example of, you've got a recessed private area, but then they project out slightly, which also allows for some views down the lanes. Next, we're going to have a look at the Muse houses. So they run east to west, and they are located on pedestrian-only routes across the estate. So they're located on car-free streets, and these family houses have their own front doors. Kitchen windows overlook the street, making it safe and overlooked. And rooftop terraces and rooftop terrace or balcony space provides outside area in addition to the private outside space, which is located at the rear overlooking the communal courtyard. So these Muse houses, they have a private outside terrace area which opens out onto the courtyards, but then also has these private balcony spaces, giving more privacy and allowing you to use. These are accessed off the bedrooms, so you've got flexibility in how they are used. In terms of the elevation, we've got special windows and design detailed features will give these homes a charm often found within London's Muse streets. A wide recessed entrance, which is shown in this image here, allows a side kitchen window for increased visibility and space for residents to inhabit and make their own. And playful details such as metal Juliet balcony, which is shown here, provide variety along the Muse and a characterful historic reference. And you can see some of the examples of other playful window features and the step up and pop up of the buildings themselves. And lastly, we're going to have a look at the canal blocks. So they are located fronting Regent's Canal, and Carnegie Street runs behind them, and the community centre is located here. So located where Aldrich and Amory House currently sit, these bold new buildings sit within the existing trees with views of the community centre, community park and Regent's Canal. The angled step form, which is shown here, creates movement and draws inspiration from the brick kilns that were once located in this area of Islington. Inset corner balconies, which are located here, provide privacy and panoramic views along the canal side. And then in terms of the elevation, we are proposing buildings take on a more industrial feel while still relating to the other buildings on the estate. Recessed balconies create strong forms and means that they are usable for residents at high levels and provide added privacy at the lower levels. Buildings will be located within trees and planting with paths and lighting, creating safe and pleasant routes. And you can see here there's some inspiration drawn from Regent's Wharf in terms of the industrial feel of the buildings, but also looking at the angled roof form, which is similar to here. And then this provides some really interesting at the top floor levels, really interesting balcony spaces, and then use of just some really simple brick details just to add texture and playfulness, and also relate back to the other building typologies that we've got across the master plan. And that wraps up the material appearance. the buildings?
The estate that opened the shared and the private space. So you guys have always told us to provide a balance of private outdoor space, that's just for you, communal outdoor areas, which are just for residents, and spaces which are open and they're completely accessible for everybody across the estate 24 hours a day. So it's actually a really similar mix to what you have on the estate, but to try and create a better balance of those things. So the diagram above on this page, and again, that's on page 14 of the pack you've been sent, it shows how the master plan will provide a fairer balance between these different kinds of open space. So we spoke to lots of you in the previous workshops about the resident courtyards, and these are shown in yellow on the plan. And we heard different ideas for how to access these, how access could be managed. And many of you thought that these spaces would feel safer and more relaxed if just you and your neighbours had access to them. So this is what Newlon will trial first, but this doesn't prevent friends or neighbours from other blocks visiting you in that space. And then Carnegie Park and Pulteney Park, so those are shown in the coral colour on the plan, along with those new east to west pedestrian links. And you shared your support for these spaces to be completely open, to be accessible, but you were keen to know how they would be managed, and you really wanted to ensure that everybody would feel welcome in those spaces. So we can reassure you that Newlon will continue to manage all of the estate outdoor spaces. They help to keep them tidy and clean and safe. And the sunken sports court, which we know that people had raised concerns over being open all of the time, this will now be lit and open only during the day. So between 8 AM and 8 PM, the ball court will be accessible for everybody, but after this, it will be closed. And the court will also be designed to use specialist materials and specialist boundaries, specialist fences to reduce the noise disturbance from it to the surrounding homes, especially in phase 1A, when we know that Adrian House residents are closest to that new court. Planted buffers, noise minimising fences, all these things will help to reduce noise and also retain privacy to those ground floor gardens. And just a very quick pitch before we move on to the next slide. We'd really love to invite you to share any ideas that you guys have for how we could transform the existing outdoor spaces across New Barnsbury, really in the shorter term. So this idea of meanwhile uses, they're kind of creative interventions that meet the needs of residents, but they also liven up, they animate, and they test new spaces. And there's an invitation again on page 13 of the printouts that you've received, but please do share any ideas in this workshop on the feedback form, if you have any ideas for how to animate any spaces across the estate. Thanks, Katie. Next slide. Okay. So this slide summarises, again, the much more detailed information that you've been sent about the tree strategy, and that was on page 15 of the pack that you received. So we've been working really closely with Islington Council's recommended arboriculturalist, who surveyed the health and the longevity of all the trees on site, most recently in June last year. We know that urban trees provide many benefits. We understand that they are much more than just a category, whether that's the sight or the sense of blossom in spring, or if it's just a low limb on a tree that's perfect for climbing. We do realise that trees have cultural significance that a survey might not capture. The map on the top left and the table below summarises which trees we're proposing to remove. So those are shown in yellow on the plan. And then those which we are proposing to retain, so those are shown in green. We have kept as many trees as possible that are safe and that are healthy, while also providing much needed new homes. We've also designed around key clusters of healthy trees wherever possible. So we've retained those two main areas of open space that form Pulteney Park and also Carnegie Park. Or you can see along the canal, PTE has spent a long time playing with kind of location, form, orientation of those blocks to really try to protect those trees along Carnegie Street. New trees will, of course, be planted throughout the estate open spaces and the streets to create a green and leafy landscape. And the map on the top right shows the proposed trees. So we will plant a range of tree species, both native species and non-native species, to increase biodiversity, but also to help prevent the spread of disease. And importantly, we are proposing to plant trees of different sizes. So where possible, such as along Charlotte Terrace, we will plant larger, slower growing trees that will thrive for many years to come. And then where more appropriate, we have suggested smaller, faster growing trees, such as to the resident courtyards. And it is worth just flagging at this point that the health of some trees has naturally declined and may continue to do so during the course of the project. So existing tree works are being undertaken as part of Newlon's ongoing estate works to keep areas safe. So if you do notice any works going on to trees, that's what's happening. Thank you.